So listen, there is a reason why they say that making your first million is the hardest. And after that, every other million becomes that much easier. And I can tell you this from firsthand experience. I made my first $1 million at the age of 18 and have multiplied it every single year since then. And that's actually what I was thinking about last night. And that's what inspired me to make this video. I started thinking, how is it that every year making money and making millions becomes easier? And what was it that makes those first few years? Because yeah, I made my first million at 18, but that was after 4 years of entrepreneurship. So that is really the premise of today's video. I want to talk about the things that maybe aren't too fun, but will guarantee that you make your first $1 million. So real quick, I want to just discuss what makes that first million so difficult, just so you understand what stage of the journey you're at. And so that way you also relax and you enjoy the process and you enjoy the journey. You understand that this is a part of your process and it won't always be this hard. Now, the main reason, the main thing you need to get over is inertia. Inertia is the tendency for objects that are stationary to stay stationary. Let me put it very simply. If you were to go on a, let's say, 3-hour flight tomorrow, it would take your pilot about 5 minutes to take off and get you to cruising altitude. Now, with many hours to go, the pilot might check his gauges, and there, he's gonna notice that he's actually burned through 25% of his fuel in just the first few minutes of the journey. But your pilot wouldn't panic, because this is inertia in action. Getting something like a plane moving requires an enormous amount of energy. But once it's up in the air, it's actually remarkably efficient. It's just sipping fuel to stay cruising. And that's why millionaires find it so easy to keep earning money. They live at this altitude. They have the resources and the capital to print more. But I say this in the nicest way possible. You're still on the ground. Getting you up in the sky is gonna require a lot of fuel. So that's why in today's video, I'm gonna show you how to overcome your inertia and get you to the cruising altitude of millionaires. Now, the first thing I need you to do is I want you to stop looking at the Musks and the Bezoses of this world. I want you to look at the athletes, the Messis, the Hamiltons, the Federers. Now, you might look at interviews with these guys, marvel at their achievements, and think that nothing would be better than sitting with them at a bar picking their brain. Let me tell you something, because I'm friends with a lot of these athletes. There is no one I would rather speak to less than them, especially in the middle of the season, because they are so monastically focused on their goals, battling fatiguing diets and suffering through intense training regimes, that they are literally the least interesting people in the world. They don't have the time or energy to dedicate to a conversation, and they haven't consumed a piece of popular media in months. You're not going to learn what they think of a film or a celebrity gossip. They are in their bed at 9 p.m. every night and treating their bodies like a temple. In other words, these people aren't well-rounded. They don't do moderation. And guess what? To make your first million, that's what's required of you. You need to remove the idea that you're going to be this perfectly well-rounded gentleman just dancing and sauntering through life. If you are serious about making real money, you need to accept that everything you do needs to be singularly focused when you're first starting out. And before this starts to sound too much like inspiration porn, I need you to understand that this isn't the ideal human state. Humans need social interactions. Humans need hobbies. They need every element of the hierarchy of needs fulfilled. But what you'll need to do to overcome inertia is so painful, so repulsive to the human condition, that most people never do it. You need to accept that for the next 6 to 12 months, you're gonna be less well-rounded. You're gonna lose friends. You're not going to learn that language that you've always wanted to, or you're not going to hit your personal bests in the gym. Once you think of your life like that flight, it's easier to understand. You need to sacrifice a hell of a lot of fuel now to cruise at that millionaire altitude later. And I can tell you this is something I personally experienced. 2017 and even 2018 when I made my first million, all the way even to, I'd say, 2019. Those 3 years between 2017, 18, and 19, I had no hobbies. I didn't see my friends. I didn't do anything. And the funny thing is, as my career progressed, I reintroduced those hobbies and I ended up making substantially more money. But for that beginning stage, I had to just focus. That new hobby I wanted to learn? No. Oh, coffee catch-ups with friends? No. Watching some new Netflix TV show? No. When you are first starting out, you just have to be in a season and a period of your life where you say no to absolutely everything and anything that doesn't have a clear correlation to your goals. Now, this video is all about the principles you need to apply to make money. But I also appreciate that there's a lot of you watching this right now wondering, okay, how do I actually make money? And that is why I launched Digital Launchpad. It is the only educational platform in the world created specifically for this reason. Inside of it, you have a selection of 10 programs at the moment, countless ways to make money, taught by the best of the best experts in the world. And not only that, for the rest of the year, we have one new program launching every single month. And you can get access to all of it for only $37 a month, or for less than 73 cents a day if you get the annual plan. So go ahead and check the first link in the description. I guarantee it's the best decision you make this year. Now, going back to my last point about distractions, if you look at one of the most famous figures in British history, the twice Prime Minister, the Duke of Wellington, maybe for those that didn't grow up in the UK like I did, this means absolutely nothing. But for anyone who's in the UK, you'll know that he is celebrated all over London with statues and pubs named in his honor, and his greatest victory was the defeat of Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. What most people don't know, unless you've read extensive books on him growing up like I did, is that he was actually a great musician. In fact, as a child, that's pretty much all he did. That's all he succeeded at. He was regarded by his teachers, his parents, and anyone he worked with as a failure. Then after being rejected for a marriage proposal and being told that he would amount to nothing, he did something that changed his life. He picked up his violin, he walked to his fireplace, he threw it in there, and he watched it burn. Now, if you don't already know, I'll just let you go ahead and research his impact to understand his importance in history. But safe to say, the reason I'm here and speaking to you in English is because he put away his childish distractions. He realized that his violin, as much as he loved it, and it was great, and it was a fun little hobby, was that and that only. A hobby. It was not the domain in his life that he was gonna go out and conquer and achieve all his goals. No, it was just a hobby. And to have that sort of insight is so special. You know, there's so many things in my life where they're hobbies, and I leave them as hobbies because I understand this is not my lane. And this, quite frankly, is a distraction. And I'm allowed to have hobbies just as long as my hobbies do not distract me from the main thing. So as you hear all of this, to me, it's still slightly baffling that you still have TikTok or Instagram on your phone, unless you are using it to monetize somehow. Now listen, we live in an attention economy, and there are thousands of people and businesses desperately trying to get yours. You've got Meta and TikTok who employ the same people who make gambling machines to program addictive qualities into their apps. Getting your attention back requires an incredible dedication to removing the distractions from your life. I remember when I was 14, I was flipping Instagram accounts. I bought a PlayStation, I was playing FIFA Ultimate Team, and in fact, I was actually even making money from FIFA Ultimate Team by trading players and then selling the coins on. But even still, I realized that this is holding me back from my greater ambitions because I knew that it was a distraction. I knew that I would always rather be doing that than doing anything else remotely constructive. Now, you might be looking around your room and wondering if you could do the same thing. I'm not telling you to smash your PlayStation right now. Instead, let's start small. Go into your phone and just delete any app that looks like it could take a second of your attention without giving you something in return. So that's right, Instagram, gotta go. Delete Twitter, delete TikTok. Now, if you are making money from these things, very different story. That's a topic for another day. And that's something that I'll be putting out a lot more content about in the future. But if you're on Twitter just because you like seeing random bullshit on there, how is that serving you? In life, you always want to equal exchange. So ask yourself, if you had a friend that all they did was take and give you nothing in return, would you still want to be friends with them? Okay, cool. Well then, why are you on Twitter? Why are you on TikTok? Unless you're getting something back in return, why are you on these platforms? And by the way, I'm on these platforms. You might even be following me on these platforms. So it's not in my best interest to tell you to delete them, but just fucking delete them. And I hate to be the one to say this, but these distractions aren't limited to technology. If you're watching this, more than likely your friends are trying to invite you on Fridays to have little gaming parties, or maybe go get shit-faced at the local bar. Now, I'm not saying that you need to cut these people out forever or remove them from your life, because for me, honestly, it's very good for the soul sometimes to just go and be stupid with your friends and have fun and just act your age. Especially for boys, it's just good to be with your guys sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to understand, for the next 6, 12, 18 months, they are not gonna be on the same wavelength as you. So you need to decide whether 7 hours of socializing and a hangover every week are really worth it to you right now. So as you're trying to get this plane off the ground, do you really want to do it in stormy conditions? Do you really want to do it with the winds working against you? Now is not the time for distractions. Now is the time for work. Unsurprisingly, this level of work and commitment is not sustainable. It's going to make you sick, and it's going to make you a pretty miserable person to speak to. So that's why you need to set realistic goals and a time limit to this dedication. And one of the most common mistakes I see people making when they start out is making wildly outlandish predictions and goals. You know, I'm willing to bet that if you scroll to the comments of this video, you'll see someone saying that they're going to comment again in a year's time when they're on a yacht with me smoking a cigar. And to that gentleman, take this in the nicest way possible. You're probably not. Now, in 3 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years, that could be a totally different story. And by the way, constantly in my life, I have these crazy situations where People that I was watching 10 years ago on YouTube or watching their content think, oh, it'd be so cool to meet this person or hang out with this person. We now meet as peers. So this stuff takes time. You just need to understand that in the short term, in the next year, you probably won't become a millionaire. And that's totally fine. Now, maybe your business does $1 million in revenue, but that doesn't mean that you're a millionaire. To me, what being a millionaire is actually having profited $1 million, as in taken home personally $1 million. That's step number one, or even better, having $1 million in cash. To me, that's what makes you a millionaire. So is it realistic that that's gonna happen in 1 year? Probably not. Obviously, unless you have a pre-existing business, you have some pre-existing background, and you're just scaling up what you're already doing. But as a beginner, no, it's not realistic. And that's fine. But that's 1 year. What you can accomplish in 5, 8, 10, 15 years is beyond your wildest fucking imaginations. So to the people who have these wild aspirations with no timeline and realistic goals, they're forgetting the whole point of this video. That getting started is the hardest part of the journey. Take this as someone who's made hundreds, then thousands, then millions, then tens of millions. Your first 10,000 is always the hardest. But once you do, you'll have overcome the inertia that binds stationary objects. Next, you need to set a realistic time limit to achieve these goals in. I'm not saying this to be kind or to say that you need to work hard for 3 months and then give yourself a week break. I'm saying this because it is a biological fact that no human can sustain this level of focus and determination for a prolonged period of time. I said it earlier, humans need friends, we need distractions. So when someone tells me that they've been head down working furiously for 2 years with no breaks, I know that they're lying. Now, how do we tie this all together? Well, you've probably heard me talk about monk mode before. This is a protocol that I developed in my own life almost 5 years ago at this point. Listen, I'm in a good position in my life and my business where I don't require enormous amounts of effort to keep things moving. But a couple times a year, I go into monk mode. I enter into a state of massive dedication and focus, removing distractions from my life and becoming hyper productive. And whilst this almost always results in massive advances in my business, I'll be honest, I do this because I also like taking time off. I like socializing with my friends and being silly, which is why for me, I go into these periods of intense monk mode. And then from there, I have no guilt or I have no issues or I have no worries or concerns about being social, meeting friends, enjoying my life. Now you need to enter monk mode for a different reason. And listen, while I could talk about this for hours, the truth is if you're looking to enter into a monk mode, just go ahead on my YouTube and watch all of the videos I've made on it. In this video, I just want to explain how it relates to the first step of your entrepreneurial journey. You see, earlier I spoke about how you need to remove distractions in your life and reduce your social commitments. So you might think, therefore, that this is all about subtraction. The truth is a little different. Monk mode only works when you apply it holistically to all areas of your life. You need to apply the same diligence and commitment to your sleep, your diet, and your body as you do your work. For most people, that means eating less, sleeping more, and sticking to a simple gym regime. This isn't so you can get a six-pack at the same time as earning your first $10,000. It's to support your mind on the journey. Only by fueling it properly and giving it the things you need will you stand a chance at success. So ladies and gentlemen, today's video is really to remind you and assure you that at the beginning, it's hard. I'm not gonna sit here and lie that it's not, but that's fine. That's part of the journey. And I know that it sucks for a bit, and I know that it's not gonna be easy for a bit, but I promise you, listen to me, I promise you this, that if you just get the plane off the ground, if you just get it to that cruising altitude, I'm not saying that your life becomes incredible and you never have any worries or any fears, but it just takes so much less effort to sustain it and keep the plane going than it does to get it off the ground. So that's why if you apply the principles that I mentioned in today's video, not only are you gonna be able to get the plane off the ground, but you're gonna do it in a way where you don't absolutely torment and torture yourself every day because your expectations have been set clearly. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, I'm watching from afar and I'm rooting for you.